And Night of Wrestling is back, but in a form of a podcast. I'm your host, Robbie Diltz, alongside a best friend of mine and a good brother, Ethan. Welcome.
Hey guys, how are you?
And so the point of this video today, I just, felt like getting back into the swing of things with YouTube content. And we're talking about wrestling, of course, on this channel as usual. So mainly what we're going to be discussing today is the recap of the WWE Draft for this year, as well as we'll get to know Ethan a little bit more. So before we dive into the draft, Ethan, let's talk about what got you into professional wrestling.
Okay, well, as a kid, we all have this dream, and whether it's football, hockey, whether it's golf, anything sports related or not, we all have this dream. And for myself, I've always been big into like contact sports, and I'd like to say 8, 9 years old, I fell into the world of professional wrestling, and from the like from the attitude, the drive, and basically all aspects of the business, it really caught my attention because it's like, people beating the hell out of each other. It's a contact sport. Might as well give her a go. And realistically, I fell into it so much that a couple years later, I'm in the business myself a little bit. So realistically, it was just always a common goal, just to stick with pro wrestling.
That's awesome. And yeah, you said you're in the business. So if for those that don't know you, where do you train and who trains you and who do you like to train with in terms of others that go to the same school as you maybe?
Right. So long time ago, I'd say I'm 24 now. I say at least like 5, 6 years ago, I started training at CWF training facility in St. Catharines, Ontario. So head trainers when I first started were Chris Thorne, Easy Eric Kearney, Rex Atkins, or known now as the Boot, and the guy on your shirt, Reckless Ride Swift. Now, it's been a long, realistically, I've been training since I was 18, but at the same time, I've only worked shows the last, 3 years? Going on 4? I'm pretty sure. Because even at 16, I was just helping out with setting up the ring and doing security gimmicks. So realistically, not much else I can really say on that end of the question. But aside from that, I love training with Jesse because he actually gives you, much like Chris Thorne, like an in-depth way to do things properly, way to do things so that psychology matches up. Although I'm still a little rusty for myself, and COVID kind of blew everything out of proportion. It's realistically Jesse, Thorne, and Swift are the main guys I really tip my hat off to. I mean, when I worked with Rex, sure, that was a great experience as well. Working with all the vets, I should say, is a pretty great experience because you learn, you grow, and you gain knowledge from them you don't actually think you experience until you're actually in a match situation. Even a guy like Sniper Randy Vaughn, sure, he doesn't wrestle much, but he knows what he's talking about as well.
Right. So you spoke a little bit about how COVID kind of messed things up for a lot of you guys that are in the biz right now. And maybe touch a little bit about how things are for maybe others that maybe got back into things, because there has been a few shows since,
Yes.
So
realistically, back in, I'd like to say February, when all this was first coming around, we had our last show, which I believe was called Bad Blood, if I'm correct. Realistically, so that was our last like show for the students, show for NWX in general. Since we're trying to do things more in a true promotion standpoint, was still that student experience. Basically, COVID based because of everything else with the 6 feet apart and yada yada yada. We haven't been able to touch a ring since February. Now, some promotions like Alpha One, who was gonna run a show and then didn't really do anything because of cancellations, COVID, all this. It really takes a downer on the pro wrestling business because we have so many fans that show up to shows that are excited, want to be there, want to interact with the wrestlers, want to interact with other fans, that in a time like this, you kind of got to do it virtually like WWE's doing, but also with very high precautions because you never know what could happen.
Exactly.
And
Gotta
now
make
with
things
the
very
whole,
COVID friendly.
exactly. And I know Steve Brown with NSW ran a drive-in show, which that was a cool idea. Everybody in their cars, or if they were outside of their cars, they had to wear a mask. Now he had a set rate where certain amount of cars could come, and if you had a full car load, great. Um, I believe that's how he did work that gimmick. I'm not 100% sure.
It sounds like, yeah, that's, I think, what he did.
So then a big name like Ethan Page tried to run. The show got canceled. Destiny had a backlot brawl as well. From what I understand, it was a two day endeavor. Um, I'm just trying to figure out what promotions have like done what recently, and actually, Death Proof kind of did something interesting. Death Proof took it to a whole new level. Basically, they did the whole No Ring North uh, stuff with Shiloh, Kyle Boone, and a couple others. NWX Champion Zone, Tyler Hill. Um, yeah, they actually did something quite cool. There was only a select few of them when the gathering sizes, I should say, were 25 or above. They did this whole YouTube segment, and it was actually kind of cool just to see a whole different side of like wrestling for like death matches and hardcore. So I figured, yeah, you know what? At least it's something for the fans.
Yeah, that's for sure. What would be your favorite kind of stipulation for a match if you had to choose?
Ooh, this has always been tough for me.
I know, because you did mention like stuff like cool matches, like death matches and stuff like that, but
There's so much cool shit out there that, you, but I'm not one to be a spot monkey. You've seen me in the ring, you know. I'm not one for spots.
that's true.
uh, Honestly, I would like to experience an Iron Man match once I got my cardio and everything up. I would love to experience a last man standing match just to give it a different twist on things. Um, I'm not so big on the hardcore wrestling.
I get it.
I mean, I am to watch it, but it's not physically my forte. Because then, I think it's more me wanting to turn more gimmick heavy rather than anything else. It's, I don't know, just stuff like that, triple threats. I've always wanted to try and be in one eventually. But right now, I'm just not at that level. Eventually, later on down the line, those types of matches I just mentioned, I would like to be in.
Yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see in those types of matches for sure. Now, going back to the last event that you were at, it happened to be an event where Matthew Manny went up against TJ Karts, and I know I see your face right
Yes.
now. So, getting to where I'm trying to get at, him and TJ Karts were going at it. The ref got knocked down,
Mm-hmm.
and then you should
Oh,
go through the rest of that.
I'm gonna hold you up there for a second. That night, TJ got what he deserved. That night, I went in there and took things into my own hands. I wanted to get into a fight. He couldn't even take one massive blow from this fist. So realistically, next show we were supposed to be in a tag match. Let me be honest with you. But COVID screwed that up. TJ, if you're watching this, I'm ready to throw down. I've been ready since the last time we faced just after Comic Con. Whether it's a tag match with True North Strong or a singles match one on one, this time I'm going to be on top.
All right. Well, we now are going to move on, and we'll dive deep into the recap of the WWE Draft. And night one started off with what you would usually expect. Round
Right?
one kicked off with Drew McIntyre staying on Raw and Roman Reigns staying on SmackDown.
Yes.
So no championships had to switch there, obviously.
No. Let me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but can we just, speaking of title changes, why? Why did they screw that up so bad with the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships? And for those of you who have not followed along, this is a huge part of what I followed during the draft because it was all over the place. Why have the New Day get drafted to Raw right after winning the SmackDown Tag Team Championships? This makes no sense whatsoever. And having the Street Profits change the titles to the SmackDown Tag titles. I mean, I get it, the whole championship team switch, whatever, drafted to the other brand, but that was stupid on creative side. I don't understand why creative decided to have either title switch brands with when basically they could have done it since there's no real brand split anymore. Why wouldn't they just defend them on either show?
That's true.
You know what I mean? Have the whole SmackDown versus Raw thing again. Have the champions switch over. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think creative thought it through properly. For sure, I totally agree with you.
I mean, it was interesting. I just sat there going, why? Like, this is so weird. Like, what?
Yeah, I didn't have that similar reaction like you, but I was kind of like, I get it in a way, but they could have
Good
done
Lord.
something.
Oh.
But let's continue on. Raw Women's Champion Asuka stays on Raw. The Monday Night Messiah gets drafted to SmackDown, now becoming just the Messiah.
Ah.
And then, of course, ending around one, the Hurt Business stays on Raw.
Right. Let me touch on Seth Rollins again for a second. I loved the burn it down gimmick that he had going for him. Why would you put him as although he's doing a great job with the gimmick, why would you put that type of a gimmick on him? Like, I don't understand it because now it's making him seem like king shit. Sure, it's Monday Night Rollins or Friday Night Rollins, whatever the hell. I don't know anymore. It's just, oh, to have a guy of that caliber. I mean, even though he's doing like good shit with it, it's like, what in the hell? That and, well, I think Murphy's done with him.
Yeah,
let's
that's what it seems.
let's touch on that. Let's touch on that real quick. So they took a storyline and just put it on SmackDown. And we'll touch into that other draft pick later.
Yeah,
It's just what the hell.
I
So
don't
what was the
understand.
one you mentioned, Robbie?
So after Rollins, I mentioned the Hurt Business. They stay on Raw, so that's
Right.
Cedric, Shelton, MVP, and Bobby Lashley.
I kind of like what they're doing with them right now. So they're perfect for staying on Monday Night Raw. They're going through Raw Underground. They're going through the back of Monday Night Raw, basically trying to be. I'm not gonna a modern day Nation of Domination, but it's not necessarily of that caliber that the Nation was. Sure, it's a type of thing, but it's not actually like set in stone. I find it a cool concept, don't get me wrong, but they're perfect for Monday Night Raw for right now. I don't think they'll ever go to SmackDown, at least not in the recent future.
I think you're right. The Hurt Business are doing a great job on Raw, and the last thing I remember seeing was them feuding with Ricochet, trying to get him into the group, and Ricochet ended up somehow winning a match where he didn't have to join them, and that was, I think, a couple weeks ago on Raw.
Yes.
So I've obviously missed the last week or so, so it kind of is a little confusing for me right now, trying to understand what else is happening at the moment.
Right.
But yeah, I like where the Hurt Business is heading for sure.
Honestly, I like how they're going into Raw Underground, trying to scout for more. Um, but realistically, the whole feud right now I guess in a three, kind of in a triple threat manner, the Hurt Business, the Fiend, and Retribution. It's
Yeah,
kind of it's kind of interesting. I don't know if a lot of people have caught that from Monday Night Raw this past week, but holy crap, man. Like the last couple weeks, it's been the Fiend, Retribution, and the Hurt Business. And I'm like, woo! Interesting. So the Fiend's looking for more people to join the Funhouse because he just got Alexa Bliss. The Hurt Business is looking for more, and Retribution is trying to turn people to get them to join the dark side and go against the company. This I find three. Well, Bray Wyatt is apparently going, from what I've heard through rumors, is going to be the next babyface on Monday Night Raw as the Fiend. So, which I don't understand how because it's a dark gimmick, right? I'm sure they'll find a way to do it, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, we'll see how this works. And then I'm like, new Fiend family? You never
interesting
know.
concept.
You never know.
No, exactly. So, yeah, we'll talk about that more a little bit later, but we'll move on to round two, and Raw starts by drafting AJ Styles.
I mean, not a bad move. I kind of see what they did here throughout the entire draft for star power. Um, again, it's a whole SmackDown versus Raw-esque thing. They want more star power on either side. I get it. The fact that he's got one guy with him right now, when it's so weird with him not being with the Good Brothers anymore. It's basically the club. Like, I don't know. To me, it's just weird seeing AJ
As a
in a
singles competitor?
again. Yes, I think it's weird, but he's a star of a decent caliber anyway. So holy shit! But realistically, um, no, I think it'll be a good move for him. He used to run Raw with the club and everything, and I think he can do it well on his own. So that was a good move.
Continuing on with round 2, this next set of draft picks are all actually female. So only one male got drafted in round 2. So SmackDown ends up keeping Sasha Banks, and then Raw gets Naomi. SmackDown drafted Bianca Belair, and then Raw, of course, kept the women's tag champs Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler.
Interesting. I never caught that part of the draft. That's That's a very interesting. That's all I really have to say about that.
Yeah, I guess Raw's gonna feel the glow for sure. I know my buddy Matt, he is a big Naomi fan, so I'm not sure how he feels about her moving to Raw, but
Ah, yeah, that's true because now that you bring up a point.
oh yeah, I know what you're getting at too.
Okay, yeah. I
So
get that now. Oh, Jesus.
I guess we should move on to round 3, eh?
Yep. Oh, yeah, definitely. Let's do that.
So kicking off, Raw keeps Ricochet. Jey Uso stays on SmackDown. Mandy Rose stays on Raw. The Mysterios, as you were mentioning earlier, they moved to SmackDown, and so now it seems like you said earlier, the feud moves to SmackDown between them and Rollins.
Pretty much. And I think they're going to continue the whole Aaliyah thing, and maybe, just maybe, I have a feeling that although we haven't heard anything yet, this is just something that's been in the back of my mind throughout this feud. Now that Dom's in the business, you can see, just from what I'm about to say, just in your reaction, maybe Aaliyah at 19 getting a WWE contract as a part-time worker anyways. I have a feeling she might have a match in the future down the line. Although she doesn't seem like the type of person that would actually get in the ring, follow her father's footsteps, she's actually not that bad of for character work on screen. Like how to make it all flow together for the Murphy segment and whatever.
Right.
She might be able to wrestle one match or be a part of a match where she's involved in something. Do I think she'd actually be a full-time worker? No. But do I think she's going to get tied up into a match somewhere down the line? I think so. I think that if they continue the feud with Murphy, maybe she might actually manage Murphy and turn heel.
That's definitely an interesting concept as well, to be honest. I like that.
I don't know. Things have been running through my mind
Yeah.
crazy.
And it wouldn't be the first time a young person has signed with a WWE. You have like Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne in the UK. You have also, I think,
Nicholas.
oh yeah, Nicholas one time deal. Former Raw Tag Champ.
Former Raw Tag Champ, youngest WWE champ. No!
Oh man.
Oh Jesus, that's actually funny as hell.
And speaking of tag teams, one more tag team rounds off round 3, and that is Miz and Morrison going to Monday Night Raw.
The fact that they're still doing a feud with Heavy Machinery is beyond me. Why? Okay, I get it. Otis stayed on SmackDown. Pardon the spoilers. Everybody should really know this right now.
Yeah.
It's what, 1 week out from the draft?
I think 2
Something like that.
at this point.
Everybody should know by now, so it's not really a spoiler. And when he showed up on Monday Night Raw, for those that haven't watched Monday Night Raw, just take the spoiler as it is. When he came out as El Gran Gordo to team up with Tucker against Miz and Morrison, I swear to you on my life, I died. Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch. Oh, who else was it? Oh, there was one more person on that list that I saw in a post today. That those 4 people,
Mickey
along
James,
with
maybe?
yes, that's who it was. That's who it was. Okay, now that we're getting on the right track here, 4 people aside from Otis have worn that mask on television in an angle similar to this. I find it hilarious how Otis pulled it off.
Yeah, I actually saw that on Facebook. I thought it was funny as hell.
When the beard's like fucking sticking out. I was like, Jesus. Oh man. I died. I popped huge. As soon as I saw him come out, I'm like, no.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Otis was actually part of the 4th round for the draft, and I think the final round on SmackDown that night. So we'll start off with mentioning a very kind of, I guess, sad moment where Kofi and Xavier got drafted to Raw, and Big E is staying on SmackDown as a singles competitor,
Right.
splitting up the New Day. Well, technically, Kofi and Xavier still kind of continue on the New Day, but
Yeah.
get it.
It's a it's a weird thing now because I know they're going to work something to bring the New Day back together multiple times, whether it's on Raw or SmackDown, even as guest appearances, because if they still are implementing the wild card rule, they'll still have guys from Raw and guys from SmackDown, or girls too, I should say, run back and forth, depending on the storyline, depending on what's going on. Realistically, I don't think it's a bad move for Kofi and Xavier. I think it'll give them a little bit of a break from the alliance type deal. And since they both haven't been on Raw in quite some time, I think it'll just, give them a little bit of a sprouting, as they, if
Yeah,
you
give
will.
them a bit of a more refreshing scene, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Little refreshed, little just amp up a little bit.
For sure. Continuing on, Dana Brooke, I believe, I can't remember now. I think she was on SmackDown. I don't know. She got drafted to
Do I
Raw.
need to look this up for a second?
I would literally was just looking at it last night, and I should have marked down where each of them were before getting drafted. But anyways, Dana Brooke to Raw. Otis stays on SmackDown, and Angel Garza stays on Raw.
You know what? Wasn't overall a bad draft. There was certain things that obviously made me go, why the hell? But at the same time, I don't. I didn't really mind this draft. I mean,
That's
there weren't a lot of big names getting moved around.
well, that's only night one.
That's true.
So, and night one actually continued on Talking Smack for round five. Humberto Carrillo stayed on Raw. Murphy got moved to SmackDown, like we had mentioned earlier. Drew Gulak now on Raw, because well, obviously we've seen him lately trying to chase after the
Right.
24/7 title. Kalisto, I believe, stays on SmackDown, and Tucker, like we mentioned earlier, moved to Raw. So, nothing to say on that part for me.
Nope.
um, but yeah, so night two was on Monday Night Raw, the following Monday. Um, and of course, round one kicked off with The Fiend being moved to Raw, Bailey staying on SmackDown, Randy Orton staying on Raw, Street Profits being moved to SmackDown, like we mentioned earlier, Street Profits and New Day swapping titles. And then, of course, Charlotte stays on Raw, but she is currently out right now with an injury.
Yes. Now, the fact. Okay. Here's what I'm confused with when it comes to Charlotte. This is just me. I don't know if anybody else feels this way. Why? Okay. I remember, if I do recall, I know it's been a while, but I do recall her being on NXT going against Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair.
Yes.
She just kind of faded back to Monday Night Raw. Like, I don't understand that.
Well, because yeah, she was NXT champion, and then she went against, like you said, Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai, as who it was.
Right.
And then I believe
I know she dropped it to
Shirai,
yes, if I remember
I
correctly.
think.
Um, but yeah, it was a very weird transition because they never really touched more on a storyline with her on NXT, and I was like, okay, yet they've got Finn Balor there full time. Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
and see, like you could have sworn that she would have been one of those ones that are moving and staying, but that's not the case, I guess. So,
I guess not.
well,
Aside from that, for those picks, I can't really say much.
no, I do like
Aside
the
from what I've
aspect of the
already said
Fiend on
earlier.
Raw.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a totally different, like I said, the aspect and the way they're doing things with the Fiend on Raw, absolutely going to be one of the next top Raw stars on on the Red brand. Because realistic, I don't know. It's I'm interested to see what else they can do with the Fiend. How creative Bray Wyatt can actually be on his own, and creative will just let him go, do his thing, and say, "Okay, here you go, have your freedom." Because even as Bray Wyatt, he's had the best character portrayal ever.
I agree.
With the Wyatt family, he did his own promos. Sure, he came out and said it flat out. He's like, I do my own promos. Because I actually listened to like a interview slash podcast with him, and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, guy's fucking talented. He's creative. And then when he came out with the Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse, sure, I was a little uneasy or unsteady, I should say, because I'm like, why is he doing a childish gimmick and then turning it completely dark? And then I realized, wait, the dark side's actually going to work. So we'll see how this actually goes down.
Yeah, and one match I'm actually interested in seeing again would be actually this time though the Fiend going up against Randy Orton. Like those two, Bray Wyatt, I should say, and Randy Orton have had some
I
chemistry in the
have a
past.
feeling. I have a feeling if the rumors are true, Bray Wyatt is going to eventually, and as much as I hate to say it, pin Drew McIntyre, win the WWE title, fight Randy Orton at a pay-per-view of some caliber sometime down the road, but I just don't know when. I've heard a rumor that McIntyre's time is going to be up with the WWE title, which will bring him back down to a mediocre spot on the main roster. Now, do I think it would be weird? Do I think it's a weird idea that he's dropping it after so long? 100%, because Vince and creative could have put him at a very, very longer reign. He's never been he's never been WWE champion. He's never been Universal champion. He's only been NXT champion and a couple of mid-card title champions. So, do I think a lengthy title run would have suited him more? Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think McIntyre should have a longer reign for sure.
It just makes sense that way.
Yeah.
But it's pro wrestling. Does everything make sense in pro wrestling? No.
Come on, we both know that.
Look at my 117 matches with fucking what's his face, and like, come on.
We don't talk about that.
Let me just shoot for a second here. Okay, let's move on. I just had to. Come on.
All right, and moving on, continuing on with night 2 and round 2 of the draft. Braun Strowman gets drafted to Raw. Daniel Bryan stays on SmackDown and actually made his return this past week on Friday.
Yes.
Or last week now, I should say. I don't know. Matt Riddle gets moved to Raw. Kevin Owens gets drafted to SmackDown. Good move. I do like Kevin Owens and SmackDown for some reason. I don't know. Just an interesting pairing. And then Jeff Hardy gets moved to Raw.
Okay. I heard the reason that Kevin Owens got moved back to SmackDown, there's a very valid reason for that. Apparently, he wanted to be closer to his best friend, Sami freaking Zayn. Do I think it's a good move, a good reason? Not really, because you can still keep in touch, and you're still working in the same town because of Thunderdome. But anyway, like, I don't know. Like, maybe he wanted to do another run with Sami Zayn as a tag competitor. I really don't know. But I was like, really? They're moving Owens to SmackDown because of that? Are you fucking kidding me? Aside from that, not much else I can really say about this night.
All right.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
All right. Well, continuing on for round 3, Retribution gets drafted to Raw.
Yep.
Lars Sullivan returned. He gets drafted to SmackDown. Keith Lee stays on Raw. King Corbin stays on SmackDown, and Raw gets a little Miss Bliss.
Yep.
Good move there. I definitely like,
very good move.
Pairing of, Alexa Bliss and The Fiend for sure.
Very. Why, when they don't know what they're going to do with them anyway, I can already tell you this now, why would they bring back Sullivan and put him on Raw? This is just the way I feel about it. They don't know what they're going to do with him. They never have, and I don't know if they ever will that fast. Because look at Ryback. They tried to do so much with him, but they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They didn't know what the hell they were doing with him. So I'm just like, oh. I feel bad for Lars Sullivan right now. I really do.
I do too. Because, I mean, it seemed like he would be this, big monstrous character. And right now, just WWE. I mean, sure, that's what they have him doing right now. But at the same time, again, like you said, they don't know exactly what they're doing with him.
Because are they going to do something to him like they did with Ryback? Are they going to do something to them like they did with Strowman? Like, he's not that big as Strowman. And he's, I don't know, it's a very touchy subject.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, I can tell you one thing, though. We can continue on for round 4. And also, I should mention, as you can tell with the sequence of things, since Raw's a 3-hour show, they got 3 picks, and SmackDown gets 2 because they're a 2-hour show. I should have mentioned that before, but of course, everyone knows kind of how the draft works,
Yeah.
especially with the last couple of years. So,
Oh, 100%.
We'll continue on. Round 4, we saw Elias get drafted to Raw, and he returned. He attacked Jeff Hardy in a match when it was Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles, and I believe Sami Zayn. It was a triple threat match that Elias returned for,
Something like that.
if I'm not mistaken. But then, anyways, Sami Zayn stays on SmackDown. Lacey Evans gets drafted to Raw. Cesaro and Nakamura stay on SmackDown, and Sheamus gets drafted to Monday Night Raw. So, not really a lot of movement, to be honest, besides Lacey Evans and I think Elias and Sheamus.
Yeah. Not much to really touch on that, to be honest.
Yeah, I have nothing really to say on that round either. So we continue on to round 5, where Alexa Bliss's best friend or bestie, Nikki Cross, gets drafted to Raw. So Raw gets just a little bit twisted. SmackDown keeps Ziggler and Rude. Let's see here. Looking at my notes, Raw keeps R-Truth. SmackDown gets Apollo Crews, which leaves basically Ricochet behind on his own. So it's going to be pretty much Ricochet kind of doing his own little thing now.
Right.
And then Raw gets Dabba-Kato, who we've seen with Raw Underground.
They have so much they can do with him. I am excited to see what they do with Dabba-Kato.
That's for sure.
He is one monster of a man that, holy crap. Like the things he did with Strowman, even though Strowman fucking annihilated him, it was, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, no, maybe I'm wrong, but because I didn't really get to see that match. But that was, holy jeez. He's just one monster. I love it. Vince loves
Big man. Anyways, we got 2 more rounds to talk about, and then a few social media announcements and some free agents. So, quickly, we'll dive into the last couple of rounds. Titus O'Neil stays on Raw, which, I mean,
Yep.
I believe that's kind of a trend for him. He hasn't been drafted for such a long time.
No, it's not a surprise to me, but oh well, good to see he's still around.
Yeah, for sure. Carmella, she stays on SmackDown. She just, I believe, returned recently.
Yep.
Or in the process of. Peyton Royce stays on Raw.
Yep.
Aleister Black moved to SmackDown. Not bad. I do like that.
I don't mind that, actually. That'll be a decent move for him.
And Tozawa and the Ninjas stay on Raw. And that is it for round 6. So
why did they give that to Tozawa? Why?
I don't know.
I don't get it.
See, it's another thing of WWE doesn't know what to do with their superstars half the time. But
it's true.
And finally, round 7 was announced on Raw Talk, and
Yes,
Lana
it was.
stays on Raw after she actually won a battle royal to be the number 1 contender to face Asuka next for the Raw Women's Championship, which I believe they had that match already or are going to. Again, I haven't seen Raw this past week, so I'm not sure if they already had that.
I honestly didn't even see that portion, so
Um,
eh,
she
I
split
can
with
follow.
Natalia.
Yeah,
So Natalia moved to SmackDown. Riddick Moss is on Raw. Riot Squad gets moved to SmackDown. And finally, making, I guess, so to speak, a call up from NXT is Arturo Ruas. I can't pronounce his last name, but I think he was also in Raw Underground as well.
I think so. Yes,
So that was the only person from NXT, I guess, as a part of the draft, so to speak.
which is stupid. Like, why? If they want to utilize more of their NXT stars and make NXT stars bigger, why not just call them right the fuck up and do something proper with them? WWE, I love you. I love you. Don't hate me. Just
Like, I agree with you as well. Like, do something big.
bigger than normal. Oh, they try.
We'll move on to the social media announcements. So it was announced on social media that Shorty G was staying on SmackDown. Billy
Yep.
Kay gets moved to SmackDown. Of course, weeks ago
Oh,
or even a month ago, I can't believe the Riot Squad defeated the Iconics, and the Iconics had to break up.
see, I'm a mark for both those teams,
Oh, I am too. Don't get me wrong.
and it was just one of those matches where I'm like, please God, don't do this, don't do this. But as soon as the bell rang for the finish, I was like, oh, they ruined the potential of one very good tag team for the women's division.
And now they're going to get lost in the shuffle.
And then they decide to do this, which they could have done a little bit more. They could have given them the straps again. Like, come on. I love Billy Kay. I love Peyton Royce. I love Liv Morgan, and I love Ruby Riott. But for the Iconics, I feel bad for them.
I do too. But again, continuing on, I'm sorry to cut you off.
All good.
um, Tamina stays on SmackDown. I believe she was still on SmackDown. Um, Lucha House Party's Grand Metalik and Lindsay Dorado get moved to Raw, as of
Yeah.
course Kalisto gets moved to SmackDown earlier on, like we had mentioned. So they kind of split their split ties as well, so to speak. Eric from the Viking Raiders stays on Raw, and Selena Vega gets moved to SmackDown. So I mean, she's being moved with her real life husband, Aleister Black,
Yes.
but we still got a list of free agents to talk about. So we will start with Andrade. For an unknown reason, he was not drafted either night.
Nope.
So also, we know Becky Lynch wasn't drafted because she's off due to maternity leave.
Yep.
Big Show, he just makes sporadic appearances, so I don't think there really was a real definitive reason to put him on a
No.
brand.
No, I think he's on a part-time Legends contract. Anyway, let's move on to the next one.
This man hasn't been seen since November of 2019, and that is Bo Dallas. Apparently, he still has a contract with WWE.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me just get this quick into here. Who?
The Forgotten Sons, they were removed off of TV back in June.
I don't understand why.
Apparently, the reason was because Jackson Riker was kind of on Donald Trump's side with the whole BLM movement and whatnot. I don't know.
So confusing.
It
Anyway,
is. It's very confusing. Moving on, though, as well, due to a neck injury, Ivar wasn't drafted, but I mean, being a part of the Viking Raiders, I'm sure he will be on Raw with Eric as well.
Right. If that's going to be a free agent type deal, then yeah, I have a feeling that's going to happen.
Yeah. Jimmy Uso, he's out with a knee injury. Jinder Mahal also out with a knee injury. Kane, he has mayoral duties right now with Knox County, so of course he wasn't drafted. Maurice hasn't been seen since December of 2019. Mrs. Wife, obviously she makes sporadic appearances as well, so there's not really a reason, but I'm sure
Well,
she'll make an appearance back on Raw at some.
oh, 100%. And I think because of the sporadic appearances, didn't they just have their second child?
I believe so. So that also makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
An unknown
No,
reason. Sorry.
I coughed and I'm like, no, I don't have the Rona.
Oh, Rhoda. Mickey James, for an unknown reason, wasn't drafted either night and hasn't been seen since June of 2020. Mojo Rawley. So that is it for the draft recap.
Yep. Wow. That, sorry, I like to touch on things that I'm passionate about.
No, for sure.
Like,
Wrestling is something we're both passionate about.
good Lord, man. This draft wasn't bad. I will say that. But it also wasn't great. Due to past years, I mean, it's nothing compared to now, but at the same time, like the past years, I feel have been so much better, even without the draft. Like it was so much better when we were running, when they were running super shows.
Yeah.
Um, because everybody was going back and forth between Raw and SmackDown, and and now that they're kind of in a 50-50 brand split, not brand split, it's kind of like, what the hell? Makes no
That's
sense.
true. I totally agree. But Ethan, I thank you for your time on being on today's podcast.
You're very welcome.
It was fun chatting with you as always.
Absolutely.
And for Ethan Strong, I'm Robbie Diltz. This has been another episode of Night of Wrestling. Thank you for watching, and we will
Take
see
care,
you
guys.
next time on YouTube.